Hey everyone, it's Reburn and it is time for a Q&A. Special welcome back to all the Notification Badger Squad members. Glad to have you. And to answer Potassium Sulfur's question, are you really going to do this? Yes, I am. Let's go. I asked for questions on Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. By the way, if you don't follow me yet on Twitter or Instagram, you can do so at Hear and Roar. And I do have a Discord server for my fans as well. I'll put the link in the description below. So now I have sat down at my desk, I've gathered all the questions, I've got them on the computer here, and I'm ready to get you some knowledge. To start off, there were a lot of questions asking me how I'm doing and what I'm doing in quarantine day to day, and I just want to thank you for that. I really appreciate you checking in on me. I'm doing all right. Some days are better than others, but I've been keeping really busy, and I hope that you're doing all right too. I say I've been really busy, and you might not feel like you see that reflected on my channel. The reason being is because a lot of these projects I've been working on are collab projects, or they're for other people, and also I've been working from home for my real part-time job, and I've actually been working more than part-time, double the amount of average weekly hours I would usually work because they're crazy busy right now. However, I've been doing my best to share updates and those collaborative projects on my social media. I know that if you only follow me on YouTube, you might not be aware of them, you might never see them, so it might seem like I'm inactive, but I assure you that is not the case, and I promise I do have other musical projects coming, some of which can only be completed after these restrictions are lifted a bit. But stuff is coming. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm going to start with the basics. Seeing these basic questions actually made me realize I've actually never done a Q&A video in English, and it's been years since I did one. The only one I've ever done, and it was in Spanish, so that might have been a barrier for most of my audience discovering it. I kind of just assume that everyone knows these things about me, but if you didn't, here's your crash course. The first one is from Mia Solveig on Instagram. Where are you from? Hugs from Denmark. Well, I have to say at this point I'm kind of wishing that I was from Denmark, not from the United States, but I'm from a town called Bartlesville, Oklahoma. It's a town of about 35,000 people in the northeast of Oklahoma. I wasn't born there, actually. I was born in Nebraska, but my parents moved to Oklahoma before I turned 2, so I don't remember anything before it, and I did spend most of my life living there, so even though I wasn't born there, that's where I say that I'm from. That's my hometown. It's nice to go back and visit now, and I will admit, it's a nice place to retire, and it's a nice place to raise a child, and it has a lot more arts opportunities than most cities of its size, so I'm really thankful that I had those opportunities growing up there. But for a young adult who has dreams of living in LA, do we all kind of hate where we're from a little bit? Is that a thing? The Eric Cable wants to know, do you ever wish you had followed a different path? Well, first of all, I'm in my 20s, so I feel like it's kind of early for me to be having those kind of regrets. This wasn't the path I had planned, but things don't always go according to plan, and I think everything happened just as it should have happened. I wouldn't make any changes. Christina Reburn asks, who is your favorite sibling? Dogs don't count. Well, since this is my actual sister and my only sister, if dogs don't count, then I guess I'm gonna have to go with you, Christina. The family dog is second. A far second, though. And since I'm talking about my sister, and because May is National Lyme Disease Awareness Month, I want to make you aware that my sister suffers from chronic Lyme disease, and if you'd like to learn more about her experiences with it, she has a blog, ChristinaRayburn.com, or you can follow her on Instagram, or check out the Global Lyme Alliance for more info. Then I have a bunch of questions about how long have I been singing, when did I start, how many instruments do I play, so I'm just gonna try to knock them all out in one go. Here we go. My first exposure to the arts was dance when I was about 3.5 years old. Loved it. Still do ballet to this day as a hobby, actually, for exercise. After that, when I was around kindergarten age, I started piano lessons. Somewhere before 4th grade, I believe, probably around 10 or 11, for those of you not familiar with the US education system. I auditioned for my first musical and I made it. I absolutely fell in love with it. But because the singing part of the audition left me quaking, I was terrified. And I probably just made it in by the skin of my teeth because I was a dancer and they needed that and I knew how to count to 8 repeatedly. After that, I started to take private voice lessons. I fell so in love with musical theater that every summer for the next 6 or 7 years, I was in a musical. And that was what I did. That was my summer. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. I stopped taking piano after about 7 years of lessons. I didn't really like the lessons much. Some of my teachers were nicer than others. I guess I'll just say that. I wonder if any of them are proud of me now. But the worst thing was the piano performances and the competitions. That sometimes I had to do competitions and it would give me the worst performance anxiety when I was too young to even put that word to the feeling. Like before I knew that anxiety existed and before I knew that what I was feeling was called anxiety, now I look back and I was like, wow, I was racked with anxiety because of these piano performances. In 8th grade, I started doing choir. I think that's around 13 years old, maybe-ish. But I went to a super small private school and they actually didn't have a choir. So I don't even remember how this happened actually. There was some finagling that happened that allowed me to audition for the district and the state honor choirs, even though my school didn't have a choir. And I went, I got in. I was the only one from my school that was there, but I was able to join with a group of other kids from Bartlesville, from the hometown public schools that were going. So I wasn't completely alone. And I had such an amazing experience in those honor choirs that I ended up doing them for the next 4 years too. So all throughout high school, I was in choir. I was also in the jazz choir. I was in the choir musicals. I was a total choir nerd. I absolutely love choir. I love the feeling of singing in a choir. After 8th grade, I moved to public schools, so there actually was a choir, a phenomenal choir. I had amazing choir teachers, so that was a huge part of my high school experience. Choir. And I think that all of that choir, to answer the question of yes, it's Sharmaji, is how I am able to match the tones in my a cappella, because you gotta blend. After high school, I went to college where I was not majoring in the arts, and I sort of had a crisis, and I said to myself, you know what I've sort of always wanted to do and I think is really cool? The bass. And so I started taking bass lessons. I did start learning bass before guitar, which I think might be a little unusual. Most people probably do it the other way around. Guitar I happened to pick up when my sister conveniently abandoned her guitar lessons and thus abandoned her guitar. I took possession of it and I started taking lessons, and actually that guitar that I stole from her is the 3/4 size folk acoustic guitar that you'll see in my videos. I still have it. I absolutely love to play it, so thank you to my sister for giving up on guitar. There was a question about kalimba too. I do have a kalimba. I was actually sent it for free. I don't know if I would say I can play the kalimba proficiently, and I don't know if I could sing and play the kalimba at the same time, but I could figure a part out. That's kind of how it goes a lot of the times. I'm mediocre, but I can figure it out. Also, during this quarantine, I may or may not have impulse bought a ukulele, so that could be coming. There was a question from King Bucky Duck that says, which artist or band do you think had the most profound impact on your musical taste? I don't have an answer to that question, but it did make me think of something else that I could share, and that is a funny story about how Guitar Hero 3 had a profound impact on me as a musician. This might sound insane, but when I was playing those songs for the first time, I consciously thought about a song's guitar part, and that was something I had never done before. And you know, when you have a multiplayer, you can choose one person to play bass and one person to play guitar, or maybe one person plays guitar 1 and one person plays guitar 2. That was the point. When I started thinking about all of the parts that make up a song, and when I stopped passively listening and I started actually paying attention to what was being done. Also, I could probably kick your butt at that game. I could play most of the songs on hard, so if anyone wants to challenge me, I'm ready. And Jose Pardo says, everyone asks, when are you going to upload a song, Anne? When are you going to do another vlog, Anne? But no one says, hey, Anne, how are you? Let's be friends. Actually, a lot of people ask me to be friends. Sometimes they hit on me. Sometimes they propose to me. I'm taken. I'm sorry. Josh Noble 07 asked, do you ever feel like your hard work and dedication get dismissed because of your looks? I've experienced this more in real life than I have on YouTube, especially working in sound because it's a heavily male-dominated field. But I do sometimes feel that I have to prove myself extra because of the way I look and because I'm short in stature as well, and that people don't respect me or don't believe I'm capable until they see me work and they see how hard I can work. If you wanted to play devil's advocate there, I suppose you could say, well, everyone in any new job has to prove themselves, which is true. But I feel like I have to prove myself extra sometimes because of this. But it is what it is. I look the way I look, and on YouTube, even if I'm not sexualizing myself at all, it doesn't matter because how I looked is inextricably linked to my content. And while I might have some talent, I do realize that I might not have some of my followers if I didn't look the way I looked. But really, what am I supposed to do about that? You know what? I think I've actually got a solution for this. I got a bunch of questions about my covers and the process of making them, so I'm gonna move into that section now. First pregunta is from Sophie en Twitter, and it says, ¿tienes algún criterio a seguir para elegir la música para hacer un cover o solo haces de canciones que te gusten? Lo más importante para mí es que me guste la canción, que tenga ganas de hacer un cover de esta canción, porque voy a trabajar tanto en ella que si no me gusta, si no me apetece hacerlo, pues que voy a estar sufriendo. A veces me acuerdo de una canción o escucho algo y digo inmediatamente voy a hacer un cover de esto, pero si no, tengo una lista muy larga de canciones que la gente me ha sugerido o también una lista que he hecho de canciones que me gustaría hacer, y si no tengo ideas, pues miro la lista. Next question is, how do you preparas todo el arreglo de voices para tus videos a cappella? Or what's my process for creating the covers? It starts with the song choice. If I don't know the song that well, I spend some time learning it, I get all the lyrics memorized, and I find the right key for my voice. Sometimes I have a final idea of how I want the arrangement to sound, sometimes I have no idea and I find it along the way. But regardless, most of them start with a basic piano track. With that, I cement the structure of the song and I also finalize what key I'm gonna do it in. After that usually comes bass and a bunch of scratch vocals. So scratch vocals are just a name given to vocals that are not the final vocal, and it's by recording a bunch of them and trying different things and making up different parts that I figure out what the vocal arrangement of the song is going to be. Sometimes, like with some of the a cappella covers, it'll be based on an already published choral arrangement of the song. So if my video is based on one of those previously arranged arrangements, I will link it in the description. But if you don't see that, that probably means it was arranged by me. And so I don't have any of it notated. It just sort of all comes together as I record it. After all those scratch vocals are laid down, I'll start adding other parts to the song. So percussion, guitar, maybe an additional or a fancier piano part, other instruments as needed. If I need to raise the energy here, I have to think about what do I need to add or what can I take away from this other section, keeping in mind the arc of the entire song and what parts are big and what parts are small. Then I'll go in and re-record all the vocals to get final vocals of the highest quality. Got a 3 for 1 from Potato Brutal. What kind of witchcraft you use to make clones? That is top secret. What is your favorite mushroom? I hate them all. Advice to new tubers. That one I can actually answer. First of all, if you are a new YouTuber, congratulations on taking that step, and I hope that it's because it's fun and because you're passionate about what you're doing. It's great to have goals, but they should be realistic, or if they're not realistic, then you are not allowed to beat yourself up if you fall short of them. And don't forget to check in with yourself. Avoid burnout. take time off when you feel like you need it. No content is so important that you should sacrifice your physical or mental health for it. Now, I can't neglect the questions about learning and speaking Spanish. There were quite a few of them about how long did it take and how did I learn. So I am not a native Spanish speaker. Nobody else in my family speaks Spanish. I learned as an adult. I did have some very basic exposure, like learning colors and numbers in elementary school, so I was exposed to some Spanish at a young age. After that, I took 3 years of Spanish in high school, but didn't learn much of anything, and I'm sure that most people who took a foreign language in high school would tell you the same thing. In college was when I really got serious about it. So my major required 2 semesters of a foreign language, and it also required us to pick a minor. So I decided, why not make a foreign language my minor? Since I already had to take those 2 classes, those can just go toward the minor, and then I'm 2 steps closer to completing it. And also because foreign language is useful. I picked Spanish because I had already had some exposure to it. So I was actually able to test out of the first semester of classes, which was great. And because it's a relatively easy language for a native English speaker to learn. For 7 semesters, I took a Spanish class each semester. After learning all of the basics, I took a Spanish conversation class, which really helped that wheel of being able to speak start to turn. I took some literature classes as well, and then after that, I went to study abroad in Spain. I'm only telling you what worked for me. But I think for me, the key was already knowing the basics and having a very basic level of conversation before I went. Because if I had been thrown in not knowing anything, I think it would have been really overwhelming to me, and I would have just resorted to speaking in English and really wouldn't have learned much at all. Because being completely immersed like that is not easy. There was a really fun question from Fio80s about my favorite curse word in English or Spanish. Learning curse words and slang, learning how to speak like an actual person was one of my favorite parts of learning Spanish and my favorite parts of learning Spanish in Spain. I think one of the ones that's really entertaining to native English speakers is this construction of me cago en blank. It's a vulgar, strong expression like God it or shit, and it literally means I shit on blank. And there are so many things you can fill in the blank with. You can shit in the milk. You can shit on everything. You can shit on God. You can shit on your whole mother. You can shit on the Eucharist. Really, the possibilities are endless. So many options. So much. Question from Winikia Cook, can you sing in other languages other than English and Spanish? Yeah, thanks to choir, I've sung in Latin, a lot of Latin, Italian, French, German, Hindi. I'm sure there are others I'm forgetting. Of course, I don't speak those languages, and I have to learn them phonetically, and my pronunciation may be atrocious, but yeah. Cad Manedo says, how to have your covers in my iPhone. All of my covers are available for download on Reburn.bandcamp.com. You can download them there in the file format of your choice, and then you should be able to add them to your phone's music app. Or you could use YouTube Music. I got questions from Janice Scheel and So I'm Eric about my favorite song that I've uploaded so far. And while I definitely have some least favorites, and I have some that I really, really like, I don't think I have one single one. I love California Dreaming because that's one of my favorite songs of all time. I'm really proud of The Longest Time and of How Deep Is Your Love. I'm also very proud of Bulletproof and my original music too, of course. Harás más covers producidos al estilo de Bulletproof. Sí, ojalá. Me encanta esta canción. Estoy muy orgullosa de cómo ha quedado. Y bueno, si os gusta a vosotros, tendré que hacer más, ¿no? There's a question from P Money on Twitter. Is there a song that you refuse to do a cover for because you're worried you won't do it justice? And there is. The funny thing about this is it was on Twitter under the hashtag so anyone could see it, and on my Discord server they reposted this question saying, oh, I already know the answer, she won't do Bohemian Rhapsody. And they're right. I love the fact that they knew exactly what I was gonna say, and yes, it is true, I won't touch Bohemian Rhapsody or pretty much any Queen I'm scared to, because there's just, I'm sorry, but there's no way that what I do is going to be good enough. There was a question from Yodaz87, ever think about trying some heavy metal covers? And I would love to do an a cappella cover of Enter Sandman by Metallica. For some reason, so many people on the Mr. Sandman video read it wrong and read it as Enter Sandman, and they clicked on the video thinking that it was going to be an a cappella cover of Metallica, that I think it would be awesome to actually do the a cappella cover of Metallica. I think I'll save that for maybe the 500K special, but I do have it in mind. I have no idea how I would arrange it. There were a couple of questions too about my covers interrupted, which I was really happy to see that there was some interest in. So I just have to say, don't miss my next video. Okay, it's time to enter the lightning round because I've been recording for way too long. I need to keep it snappy. My voice is getting tired and I can't have the fan or the AC on for good sound, so it's 80 degrees in here and I'm sweating. H. Nicole Griffin, do you like your pizza boneless or with bones? Boneless, always. Is cereal soup? This question makes me uncomfortable. How many cocaine do you take per day? 0? What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? African or European? When you eat a taco, do you tilt your head or do you tilt the taco? My head. Are there people that don't tilt their head? If you tilt the taco, all the ingredients are gonna fall out. Would you eat a seagull if it had barbecue sauce on it? Absolutely not. But if it had sweet and sour though? Why is there no cat food with mouse flavor? Well, I don't know what mouse tastes like, so who am I to say that cat food doesn't already taste like mouse? But do cats actually like mice though, or is that just an old-fashioned stereotype? Who's your favorite musician and why is it KK Slider? For real though, drop your favorite KK track in the comments because I need ideas of what to request from him. Why can't you accept the term moo juice? One time in my childhood, someone called milk moo juice, and I thought it was going to be like a new kind of juice that I had never tried, and it wasn't. It was just milk, and I've never gotten over that disappointment. And ever since then, I just think that moo juice is a completely inappropriate name to call milk. False advertising. Are you aware you have a WikiFeet page? Thoughts? This was recently brought to my attention. To the people who have rated me low, why? And to the people who have rated me high, why? And lastly, there were tons of questions about the future, new releases, countries that I'd like to travel to, or places I would like to play shows. And to that I have to say, yes, it's coming. I just don't know when. I would love to travel all over. I want to play shows all over. I'm already really missing it, but we're just gonna have to see how this whole thing pans out because none of us know what's gonna happen and what this timeline is gonna be like. I have started to work on a second EP, but I can't promise anything. Really, the only thing that's a given is that it's gonna take more time than I think it's going to, because that's always the way these things work. But just know, wow, this is what I said at the beginning of the video too. I'm really bringing it full circle here. What a nice conclusion, that even if you don't see it, I am working, I promise. And I thank you all so much for sticking with me, even if you aren't seeing that work right now. Thank you so much for being patient. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Hear and Roar. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.